What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got another edition of The Drive-In, where I watch recently released films and tell you guys whether they're worth watching, worth waiting for, or worth skipping altogether. I went to the theater last night to see a movie, the first of the year, 2024, Happy New Year, guys, and I saw what is possibly one of the biggest talking point movies and one of the most unique movies that I've seen in theaters maybe ever. It is January 4th. I saw this on the 3rd. And usually January for horror or for movies in general was considered a lackluster kind of time where they just kind of dump the extra stuff, the repetitive stuff. They put some very lackluster movies in theaters. If nothing else, this movie I'm talking about today is one that is going to stay with you for the entire year. Whether you love it or hate it or don't fully understand it, this movie is not forgettable. This movie is not one you're going to walk away forgetting that you saw. I will never forget this experience. I'm talking about 2024. I guess it's 2024. I guess it came out in 2023. So 23/24. Poor Things. I'm talking about this crazy movie that I will try. I'm not going to spoil this. No spoilers. There are going to be some talking points that I have to kind of jump around to not spoil anything. I'll try the best I can to give things that are in the trailer and stuff like that. But this movie is written by Tony McNamara and Alistair Gray, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, starring Emma Stone as Bella Baxter, Mark Ruffalo as Duncan, and Willem Dafoe as Godwin Baxter. And essentially, again, being spoiler-free as possible, this movie is about... I'm not even entirely sure I know, but this movie essentially is about somebody who finds a woman who's been in an accident and essentially kind of reanimates her and raises her as his own, kind of his own daughter, and watches her kind of regain motor skills, regain brain power, raises her from essentially the womb to some degree after an injury, and kind of watches her regain understanding of what her life is, but kind of tries to keep her hidden under lock and key for fear that her differences will get her shunned by society. It is very much an amalgamation of different things, and we'll talk about that. But in itself, it is very, very unique. This thing, to me, I wrote down as one of my big positives here. Tim Burton meets Wes Anderson. When you see black and white scenes, it is very much a Tim Burton. It kind of has a 20s and 30s kind of feel to some degree. The characters kind of move very uniquely. It's shot very uniquely. It very much has a Tim Burton kind of feel. And then you get into the colors. And when they get into the color scenes, you get this very vibrant, positive use of CGI, vast landscapes, really deep pictures, really great color grading. You get this Wes Anderson feel. So everything is larger than life, but it's two completely different styles and directors put together in this thing. And there's so many different inspirations. I mean, it's part Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, a recreation, reanimation kind of film. It is part Wednesday Addams, with how quirky the characters are and how unique Emma Stone's character is, where it's very much like a Wednesday Addams, dry humor, dry delivery, discovering things for the first time, a little bit withheld and different. There are just a million different things that this movie kind of has inspiration in, but it's so different in itself. Another big positive, really the number one positive for me, and this is Emma Stone. I put acting as the next positive, but I want to give Emma Stone her own section here. Emma Stone playing this recreation where she has to move kind of like Frankenstein's monster is brilliant. Her movements are brilliant. Her facial expressions are brilliant. You can kind of see what's going on in her head while nothing is going on in her head. She is just a powerhouse onto herself in this movie. This is her greatest role of her career. This is that time when a generally wholesome actor, like a Disney actor, wants to break type and wants to go do something so over the top that they are kind of no longer typecast anymore and they have a chance to show what they can truly do. A lot of the characters do this in this movie, but Emma Stone especially is just one to be held in this movie. You have to watch this just for her. She's spot on. The comedy is, the dry humor is on point. Her facials are great. Just her acting with props, her movements are so measured out and so natural in this unnatural state that it's just, your eyes are glued to her the entire time. And nothing against anybody else, because the acting in general is my next positive, is good for everyone. I mean, I didn't even write down the main kind of like love interest character, the apprentice doctor in this movie. He was great too. But Willem Dafoe, Emma Stone, and Mark Ruffalo just steal the show in this. They're really, really good in this. Originality I have is a big positive too, where like I said, there are many things. There's Wednesday Addams, there's Wes Anderson, there's Tim Burton, there's Frankenstein. There's a million different things this movie is like, but there's nothing really like it when you put it all together. People say there's no original movies anymore, nobody has their own style, and nobody sets apart to make something unique and different. You're not going to get much more unique and different, whether you like this or don't like this, than this movie. Cinematography. There are just some really unique things happening here. There's a lot of like long hallway shots. There's a lot of continuous shots where actors are moving around and the camera's following. And I give the cinematographer a lot of credit because, again, there's a lot of props moving around in this movie, and there's a lot of unnatural Emma Stone movements that require a lot of unique following, and the camera did a great job there. So you get a lot of long shots, stairwells, chasing kind of scenes where the camera's following around. You get a lot of like keyhole shots. There's a lot of distorted lens shots, a lot of keyhole shots in this, which I think are really, really cool. You see kind of shading and shadows. You see fisheye lenses. You see kind of minimally used screen shots. I love the way they put their own style into this, and that's kind of where I get Tim Burton from, but it's super unique, and it's really shot to fit the style of what the unique characters are doing at the time, which is really, really cool. And it gives you perspective, too. As you're looking at these unique shots, you're wondering, is the director trying to tell us something through these shots? So not only are you watching a well-shot, coolly put-together film, but you're trying to figure out what the societal kind of statements are when you're looking at these unique shots. Almost as if the recreation of the Doctor is what's looking at Emma Stone's character in this movie. Also, the transitional things. The editing is cool because the transitional shots have different chapters. There are different headings to each thing. So as Emma Stone's character, Bella Baxter, tries to travel around and discover the world, because she's been kind of withdrawn and she's been kind of kept lock and key as almost a prisoner at different times in this movie, that when she gets out, she wants to thirst for knowledge. She wants to thirst for experience. She wants to adventure. Everything her character does is motivated by adventure and fresh experiences. And so you understand that through her character, and you see different parts of the world, both through the camera, through the coloring, and through Bella Baxter's eyes. And each chapter is edited together by a little header that is unique. And I'll put this along with the credits too. Not only do we get like the credits of the different places that Bella Baxter goes, but the credits in general in the end, you've got these like unique borders of the cast and crew's names at the end, and you also have these really just like vociferous backgrounds, these really big, deeply colored backgrounds. So you get just a very pretty film, not only in the film itself, but in the transitions, in the credits. This thing is put together with a lot of time and a lot of love, and it looks really visually beautiful. That is the best thing I could even say about it. The visually beautiful. Coloring is my next thing. I talked about the Wes Anderson style already and the transitions. This is as pretty a film as you're going to see. So if you like things that are unique and visually beautiful, this is going to be a one-stop shop for you. You're going to love this movie in that regard. Tim Burton meets Wes Anderson, I already discussed. Comedic timing. This is... I guess there's part horror because of the recreation aspects. It's mostly drama/comedy, and the comedy is gold. Again, Emma Stone having this dry delivery. She very much reminds me of Jim Parsons as Sheldon Cooper. If you guys have watched Big Bang Theory, I know that's a divisive show. There's some fans love it, some hate it. But if you've watched Jim Parsons as Sheldon Cooper, the lack of sarcasm, the first time understanding of things, the new recognition of social norms, the things that Bella Baxter's character goes through as she starts to realize what's okay and what's not, and what you should say and what you shouldn't, what is socially acceptable and what's not. It is so funny watching her process and speak these things out loud that you normally wouldn't say out loud. She's great. And Mark Ruffalo in this, he's really just like the fourth most seen character, I guess. But I really, really liked Mark Ruffalo in this because he plays a foil to Bella Baxter. When you get some dry comedy from Godwin Baxter, the doctor, and you get from Bella Baxter, you get the kind of dry delivery and the kind of really reserved comedy. Whereas with Mark Ruffalo's character, he is an over-the-top, misogynistic, loud, ridiculous, wannabe sex symbol, narcissist, overinflated, overdramatic. Everything revolves around him. His life got to be perfect. He's such a ridiculously over-the-top character that his drama provides a nice foil in contrast to the dry comedy of the rest of the film. Now we'll get into a few negatives because I've talked about positives here the entire time. Let's get into a few negatives of this. Number one, the length. This movie runs 2 hours and 20 minutes, and it feels longer than 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2:21 to be exact. This movie felt long. I felt the length of this sitting in the theater. I almost by the end felt like Bella Baxter as my sore back and legs were walking out of the theater. This movie could have stood from chopping it up a little bit, where the pacing in the beginning is really, really good. The movie starts out and they spend a lot of time getting you used to the main couple characters. There's some wait staff, like helpers. There's the main doctor, the doctor's apprentice, and Emma Stone. And you spend time with them, and you really get to see their journey. And you get to know Willem Dafoe's character and kind of why he is the way he is and why he's unique. You get to know Emma Stone's character and why she's put together the way she is. You spend some time building a bit of a love story. You build a bit of a father-daughter kind of a connection. You build a bit of a romance. You build a bit of the apprenticeship with the doctor and the future doctor. You get all of these relationships building, and while the movie does go long, everything still feels tight. You spend time getting to know everyone, so when the stakes are raised, you care about it. That being said, once we get to the kind of end of the middle to the beginning of the end of the movie, kind of the second act into the third act, it starts to feel very long because the headings for the next chapter start popping up and you go, oh, we've already been to several of these chapters. We're still going. There's still more whole chapters to go. This thing starts to feel very long because they get into scenes they don't need to. Steps get repeated a lot. And we'll talk about that as the next negative. Repetition. So we see Emma Stone's character discovering the world, and that's a wonderful thing. And you see her get stronger, and you see her get smarter, and you see her get more independent, and you see her thirst for more. And that's a really good journey for the audience to see this barely human kind of turn into this strong, empowered woman who you love to watch grow and be funny. She's great in this, but you start to get the same beats over and over again. Her and Mark Ruffalo go round and round over and over again, where it's they're together and they're having sex and loving each other, and oh, they're fighting now, and oh, they hate each other, and oh, now they're having hate makeup sex, and oh, now they're mad again, now they're back together again, where you start to wonder, why are they wasting time with the same beats over again? And it kind of makes Emma Stone's character look a little silly for settling for the same thing over and over again. Whether or not she knows better or not at this point, she starts to kind of go into the same beats. That also happens with one of the big twists toward the end, and I'll get into that in a minute. But you also start to see, oh, they're doing some of the same jokes. They're dragging out some of these dining room scenes. Oh, they're just doing things to get Emma Stone into an awkward sexual position over and over again. It's like we've seen these things. Yeah, they're shocking and cool and funny the first time. By the third or fourth time, it feels gratuitous, and it feels like it's making the runtime longer. If they had cut down a couple of these repetitious beats, the movie would have felt tighter, and everything would have felt less gratuitous. And I think they just got into a lull in the middle toward the end of the film. Gratuity is my next negative, where I love that they push boundaries in this. You see a lot of positive CGI. You see a lot of amalgamations of animals. You see a lot of really dark sex scenes. You see a lot of there's a lot of self-pleasuring things in here. All kinds of really dark themes that fit with a person who has no recognition of their past, who is not necessarily entirely human, becoming human. You're going to want to discover these things about yourself. You're going to want to discover pleasure and pain and the things that you love. So it makes sense. So I'm not against the sex scenes or the nudity or things like that, but sometimes it feels like they do things just to shock people. There are moments in this movie, and I'll just say this now, I guess partial spoiler, partial kind of trigger warning here, but there's violence against some animals in this movie, there's violence against some babies in this movie, and they don't necessarily have to be there. I understand why there are beats kind of being made, but there are some things in this movie when it comes to animals and babies that feels very much like, oh, you're going to turn some people off with this. I understand you're pushing the boundaries, and I understand there's a couple callbacks to other things in this, but it didn't need to be there. They could have gotten the desired result of their characters without taking it too far with the babies and animals. And like I said, even the sex, I'm not a prudish person at all, but there's times where you're like, okay, how many times can we get Emma Stone, completely naked up in a awkward position where she's folded up like origami having awkward sex with some dude? So it feels like they could have cut down on this, and they would have alienated less people and made themselves less awkward to prudish people, and also saved the movie a lot by cutting back the runtime. This movie is not for everyone. I had a friend of mine say this was one of the worst things or grossest or most over-the-top things she had seen. And I didn't necessarily know why coming in. And then I saw the movie, and I went, oh, yeah, if you're a lover of animals, or you're a lover of children, or you have young babies, or you have new pets, I can see, excuse me, where some of that violence toward those things would feel like it's thrown in your face and would feel like they're showing you really depressing things that can trigger you. And again, if you're a prudish person that doesn't like seeing sex on screen, or you tend to see movies with like your parents or your grandparents, this is not going to be for you. If you're not heavy on the violence or heavy on the sex or heavy on the taboo situations, there are things about this that are going to make you feel awkward or downright depressed at points. So this is not for everyone. Finally, final negative, the decision making. Like I said, I think Emma Stone kind of is made to look bad in certain points of this because she goes back to situations that she doesn't need to. She's in a kind of a bit of a toxic relationship at home where she feels a bit trapped. So she goes out to be on an adventure where she kind of gets into a bit of a toxic relationship and kind of gets a bit trapped. And then later in the film, when she moves on to something new, she gets into a bit of a toxic relationship and she kind of gets a bit trapped. And she keeps making these same decisions over and over again. And I understand that she's like kind of newly human or newly discovering herself. And I understand she's motivated by adventure. But after the third time, you start to shake your head and go, oh my God, like you're going to make this bad decision again. We're going to get the same story again. And we're going to be kept here in the theater for another half an hour. So you kind of don't like the decision making in kind of the middle to toward the end of the movie. So I question some of those character motivations there. But overall, like I said, this movie's not perfect. It's not going to be for everyone. If you don't like long movies, if you don't like violence toward animals or kids, if you don't like gratuitous sex, if you don't like things that are weird and sometimes over the top, you're not going to like this. That being said, I liked this overall. I thought it was such a unique movie, shot so well, colored so well, styled so well, and really acted and characterized so well, especially by Emma Stone, by the entire cast. If you like a part Wednesday, part Frankenstein, part, Sheldon Cooper type character, dry humor, that's going to be part drama, part thriller, I think you're going to love this. I think everyone should at least see it, again, unless you're triggered by babies, animals, stuff like that. I think everyone that's not triggered by those things should see this movie just for the spectacle of it, just for Emma Stone, just for the way that it is shot, and to support something that is unique. I would recommend that. But again, this is not going to be for everyone. But if you like good acting and a uniquely shot movie that's going to give you some moments of laughter, some moments of discovery and things like that, I think overall you're going to like this. Again, it's a long one, and again, it's not perfect at all in the pacing, but overall, it's an experience I will never forget. I'm not sure that I'll ever watch it again, but I'm really glad I watched this and I got some really positive things out of it. I'm going to give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. I don't know if it's going to be there at the end of the year as far as like best movie, but maybe as far as most unique and best acting, it might be there. 6.5 out of 10 for me if you saw it. What did you think? Tell me in the comments down below if you like my review, and give me your review as well on what you thought stood out to you. If you've not seen it, it's currently still in theaters and select theaters, so go see it now. I recommend you all see it. But yeah, tell me in the comments down below what you think of this movie, if you liked it or not, and why, and what else you'd like to see me review here in 2024 going forward. Take care, guys. Enjoy the movies.